Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics, and in this video I'm excited to bring you part 4 of our fish room tour. We are finally on this side of the fish room, and so today what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be showing you our largest tank in the fish room. That is our 150 gallon, as well as a couple 75s and the 255 gallons behind me. So just 5 tanks, but I think they're pretty cool. Now if you've missed the first 3 parts, I will link them down in the description below. Highly recommend to check them out. They're pretty cool. They are on the other side of the fish room. Also, we have done a lot of species profiles on the fish that you are going to be seeing in this video. If you want more information, that will be down in the description below as well. Hope you enjoy the video. So this is our 150 gallon tank. Now this is an interesting size. It's not a 6-foot tank. It's only 4 feet long. It's 2 feet wide and about 30 inches tall. I've actually talked about this size tank relative to a 6-foot 125. I've compared them, and if I could do it all over again, I probably would have gotten a 6-foot 125. I'll put that video up in the upper right hand corner. Now there's a lot of different fish going on here. You see the tinfoil barbs and the ballast shark. I've done species profiles on most of the fish that you will see in this tank. If I could do it again, I probably would not have gotten the tinfoil barbs, the ballast shark. In fact, I've talked about that in a previous video, just because they're a little bit more active than what this tank can provide. And at this point, I'm kind of in a hard spot because they're older fish, and I've tried to move older fish that are generally kind of high strung like tinfoil barbs in the past, and it didn't work out well. We've lost some fish, so I'm debating whether or not to leave them in here and let them be at about 10 to 12 years old, or do I take the chance and move them to let's say a 6-foot 180? So I'm still deciding what to do there. But there's a lot of cool fish here. So you see the angelfish, love that. By the way, the Geophagus here, that is Geophagus. It was sold to me as Cernamensis. I think it might be Geophagus altifrons. We get that question a lot. It is my favorite fish, I think, in all the fish room. I absolutely love this fish. There's a lot of really cool fish in this tank besides him. We've got a couple severums. There is a gold severum in this tank, and then you can see here the red shoulder severum. I've done species profiles on them before. They're really awesome fish. I love the severums quite a bit. I just think that they are just so cool. They get pretty large, and so a tank like this, a 150, a 125 is a pretty appropriate size for them. Could you get away with a pair in a 75? Possibly. But this is a really nice fish, and if you can get a larger colony going in a larger tank, they're pretty awesome. They've been called a poor man's discus, but I just think they're awesome just on their own. Here you can see the Geophagus again. Just lots of really cool color. Love it quite a bit. This is the smallest fish we have in the tank, and that is an emperor tetra. And there was a pair in there, and amazingly enough, the larger fish leave them alone. There's our Raphael cat. He's very old. And then here again, we've got our angelfish. Most of the fish that you see in this tank are pretty old. They've been in this tank for a long time. I think the last time we put fish in this tank might have been somewhere between 5 years ago, somewhere in there. And even they came from other tanks. So these are older fish that are just kind of living out their lives in this community. There's no plans to breed anything in here. This is the 75 gallon, what I call the Kessel Tank. This tank has a couple of Kessil lights. We've done a review on those lights before. I will put that in the upper right hand corner as well as in the description below. They're cool lights. They give you that shimmering effect. Joanna did all the aquascaping in this tank. I think it looks pretty cool. And right now what we have in here are our Geophagus balzani. Those are the Geophagus-like looking fish, and they're still pretty small, and we may at some point change them out of this tank, take them out of this tank and put them somewhere else. I'm not super crazy about having gravel in there with a tank with a fish that likes to interact with the substrate, but for right now they're working out okay. We also have these gobies in here, Rhinogobius hennechuensis. Done a species profile on them before as well. Really interesting fish. They're kind of getting a little bit older, but I like looking at this tank, and these guys are just goofy. The males are going to get a massive sort of nuchal hump thing going on. In fact, this smaller fish, which is only maybe a couple inches, he's already showing it. But they're just really interesting looking fish, and I love looking at this tank. And again, these Kessil lights, I like the look. They're expensive, no doubt about it, but they give the tank a look that is unlike anything else we have in our fish room, which is pretty interesting. So there you see the goby again. At some point, we're probably going to add more plants to this tank. For right now, Joanna had tied some Java fern and some Anubias to this driftwood that she's got. There is some jungle val growing in the back. The gravel here is just standard gravel. It has been in this tank for a very long time. And again, we've got the Kessel lights going on. So I like the setup. So this is our 75 gallon. That's more or less kind of a retirement community. We've got a very old group of Thricthes maculopinus. They're the firemouth looking cichlids that you see swimming all around. We had a really good breeding stock. We actually sold off the breeders and all their fry, and I kept some of the ones that maybe people wouldn't want because they didn't look the best. But I really enjoy these fish. They've got nice color. I have no plans on breeding the individuals in this tank just because I don't think they're breeding quality, but they're certainly pet quality. The red-tailed shark gets a bad rap sometimes. They can be aggressive, but he's fit in well in this tank. We've got a pearl gourami that's very old in this tank. This is one of my favorite fish in the fish room. I've talked about them before. It is a loach, Birdmorii loach, and it's really awesome, but these things can be very aggressive. In fact, we had some clown loaches in this tank when we first got this fish, and he was probably half the size, and you could see even the red-tailed shark really doesn't mess with him. He's a fairly aggressive loach. If you can find them, they're super awesome, but they can definitely assert themselves in a tank, and that's just something you have to keep in mind. But I absolutely love the personality of this fish. Like I said, it's one of my favorite fish in all the fish room. One of the other interesting things that's going on in this tank that it's not even fish, and that is the red algae, and I don't know why. I don't scrape this stuff off the glass, and I don't scrape it off the rocks. I just kind of like the way it looks. It's the only tank I think in our fish room where we have this kind of red algae, and I like to look at it. So I know it's kind of weird, but it's pretty cool. Check this out. I have not seen this fish in over a year. This is our clown pleco. We put it in here a long time ago, and I haven't seen it since I think Joanna redid the tank, and this was at least a year ago, maybe more, and I hadn't seen it since. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's the clown pleco. So there it is. It's still around. This is an up-close picture of the Thricthes maculopinus. Again, really cool fish if you can find them. They are cichlids. They are kind of aggressive, but it's definitely a pretty awesome fish. There's the red-tailed shark. He's every bit the 6-7 inches that a red-tailed shark can grow to, and yes, they can be fairly aggressive. Here we're looking at one of our 55-gallon tanks. This is our Geophagus Tapajos breeding tank. Joanna did a little bit of work. We had to use fake plants in this tank because these Geophagus love to dig. So they will dig mounds of sand all over the place. So what we really have going on here are fake plants. And then at the top, we have live plants, which is all the hornwort that you see. Right now, what we've got in this tank, I believe we've got the large male that's kind of right over the rocks, and then I think we have 3 females. But what's interesting about this community dynamic is that we have a pair that has established themselves. Here we're looking at the male, and we have a male-female pair, and they are generally the ones that give us all the fry. And then the other 2 females, usually it only happens when they're getting ready to breed, and I think they are now because we've been spending a lot of time by the rocks. But they'll push the 2 females off to the sides of the tank and won't let them near that little rock structure. Usually they'll lay eggs for us. They'll breed once every month or 2, maybe slightly longer. And then when that happens, they kind of shove the females aside. And most of the time they're relatively tolerant of one another. But this is a great fish, as you can see. A lot of color. I love this Geophagus. We've talked about it before. I've done a species profile. I'll put that down in the description below if you want more information. But what's cool about this particular type of Geophagus, the Geophagus Tapajos, is one, they color up a lot faster than some of the other Geophagus where you have to have some more patience. I think the second thing that's really cool compared to other types of Geophagus is they don't tend to get as large. So a lot of the other Geophagus, they might get 8, 10, 12 inches. These ones here, the male that you're looking at, he's probably 3 years old or so, maybe slightly older. But what's nice about him is he's right around the 5 or 6 inch mark, and I don't expect him to get a whole lot larger. The females are also really cool because they have really nice color. You can see some plecos in here. They're the ones that are responsible for keeping the tank nice and clean, and they do a good job of that. But the females also have nice color. The tops of their heads, for the redhead Tapajos, they don't get as red. The fins don't get as long. The trailers don't get as long. They don't show quite as much color, but you can see here they still show really nice color. And I think that's one of the things that's nice about the Geophagus in general, is usually your males and females both have the ability to show really nice colors, unlike maybe some of the African cichlids where sometimes, especially peacocks, where your females are going to be brown or silver and really kind of boring looking. That's not the case with these. Very cool fish, some of my favorites. So here you can see an up close picture. Again, really awesome. So this is the last tank I'm going to show you today. This is the 55-gallon above the Geophagus tank. There's a couple different fish in here. The first one, the most predominant, is the Msobo cichlid. It's an Mbuna cichlid. The males are the nice deep blue, and the female has got that orange yellow sort of color, and the ratio is exactly backwards from what I would prefer, but we got them young, and this is just what we happen to get. Now, these are great fish. They are aggressive. I would say even for an Mbuna, they're on the more aggressive side. For whatever reason, they really like that side of the sponge filter. We also have a male Eureka Red peacock. I think I might turn this tank back over to the Eureka Reds and let them breed. There's also a female sulfurhead cichlid. We had a male. They had a lot of fry. We lost the male, and now we've just got the one female. So I might turn this back into a Eureka Red breeding tank because they were doing an awesome job. But look at that male. That is the way the dominant males look. Absolutely outstanding. So that was part 4 of our fish room tour. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, share, subscribe, and stick around because we'll have the rest of the parts coming up here pretty soon, and we'll show you a lot more of our tanks. Thanks for watching.